Spoiler alert, Slashers Paradise encourages viewers to watch these horror films before listening to our show. Danny and Lance will go through everything, including filmmaking, dialogue, characters, and even full scene breakdowns when we get excited. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Slashers Paradise. Danny, say hello.
Hi, everybody.
We're back.
We're back. Hey, that's Carol Ann, but from part 2. They're back. She's like sad about it. Oh God, it's gonna happen again.
It's happening.
That's I guess how we feel about you guys. Your reaction to us. They're back. Oh no.
Question mark. Mm-hmm. No exclamation point.
Exclamation point, question mark, hyphenated. No, we're back, folks. Yeah, it's been a little bit, Lance.
It's been a little too long. And
yeah,
so we got to come back in a big way.
I think so.
You know, this is Slashers Paradise.
What's the name of the show?
Slashers Paradise.
Well, I think then we should dive right back into what we fell in love with to begin with. Not to say that anything we've been doing besides slasher movies has been bad. No, we love all horror. This is a place where, of course, slashers can come relax and kick back and, you know, get their kill on. It's a big island, but also other sorts of horror. But if we're being honest, I think we have to be honest with everyone listening.
Yes.
Slashers is our bread and butter, man.
It's number one in our hearts. You know,
yeah. It's also number one on the field if they were playing. You know how they're like, hey, number whatever on the field, but number one in your hearts, they would also be number one on the field.
Yeah, I'm thinking of my one finger foam, and it was a slasher on it.
But would you be in this case, for this slasher in particular, would you be at a hockey game?
Ooh, that sounds intriguing. Yes,
folks,
I think I would be.
If you have not seen from the title, Slashers Paradise, we are definitely doing it. We're doing it, Lance. We're doing it big time. We're jumping into arguably one of the most iconic slashers in the whole genre.
I think so, because everyone basically, I'm not going to say ripped it off. Everyone, this was the blueprint for a lot of the movies that we've already covered and that we will cover. Mm-hmm. This was the blueprint.
Okay.
I believe.
Well, I think, definitely the blueprint from what people may recognize more so with a slasher movie. They think it has gory kills, some cheesiness to it, campiness, and not, you know, there's... Is that where they got the word? Is that how campy is? Because it is a camp horror movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Blood, I think.
Well, yeah, there's definitely, I'd agree with that there's a blueprint that is definitely associated with this franchise and this killer and this slasher. And folks, if you haven't guessed it by now, we're talking about
Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. My goodness. Most notably, before it became a horror movie franchise, it is still considered an unlucky day.
Yes.
An unlucky day in the year. So there are superstitions associated with Friday the 13th, right?
Absolutely.
Black cats,
ladders. Don't walk under the ladder.
Don't
break mirrors.
Don't whistle back at the owl.
I didn't know that.
Oh, maybe
that's familiar.
No, maybe that's just Mexican folklore. Yeah. It's called a lechuza, right? Okay. So you don't whistle back at it because it's like, oh, right? It's like doing its thing out there. It's like, oh.
What does lechuza mean?
It's basically an owl.
Okay.
Basically, but it's like the barn owl, you know, the ones with like the snow. No, not barn owl, like the snow owls with a white face. Apparently, these lechuzas can turn into and or shape shifting witches, and when they're whistling out there, no joke. This is actually a really true story. This actually happened to my uncle, and it's the reason that we all know not to. Don't laugh. I'm telling you, it's for real. You're already laughing. No, it's for real. We were always warned as kids, and we always thought it was just him making, you know, the story up, and this story might be made up, but you know, he told it very convincingly. And we, all his brothers and my dad included, you know, corroborated the story. So basically, the lechuza is out there in the woods, and it's, you know, nighttime. And it's out there, and, you know, it doesn't sound like what I'm doing, but just imagine an owl sort of like whistling. And it's like, you know, like, you know, just doing his owl thing. Okay. You can't whistle back. Because it's like that urban legend. If you flash the lights at the car that doesn't have the headlights on, then that means that you're inviting the car. You're like, hey, turn your headlights on. You flash the lights. Yeah. But then the car is like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get you now. It's a gang initiation, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like for the lechuza, it's almost the same thing. You don't whistle back at it because that will invite it. It's like inviting a vampire, and it will invite it to you. So what happened is that my uncle, he said he did it, right? And when he whistled, the lechuza came after him, but not just one, many. And he had to like get under the truck that was in his truck. He had to get under it, like, Jurassic World, style, where, he's trying to get, he got under the truck, and you heard all the
we talked about this before.
Yes, you heard all the wings, and then next thing you know, he just like, because they were flying by, and then it just like, it was about to land, and then it turned into feet.
That's terrifying.
I'm telling you,
How have
man.
I never heard of this?
Because it's the lechuza.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, man. And then it turned into feet, and he closed his eyes, and then of course, it eventually disappeared. But that's one of those urban legends, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
There needs to be a whole horror franchise based
Oh,
on
for TM trademark Danny Gonzalez, Slash's Paradise, Lechuza origin story. Don't even touch it.
Yeah, we're working on that right now. I'm writing it down as we speak.
Absolutely.
But we are talking today mostly about Friday the 13th, which is mostly known for its killer through the franchise,
yes,
but not from the first movie. This is horror trivia from Scream, which we just talked about.
Name the killer in Friday the 13th. Jason. I'm sorry. That's the wrong answer. Like, he was so excited to tell her that it was the wrong answer, right?
Like that was big.
Yeah. But because like he didn't specify which Friday the 13th, and if we're being technically,
your favorite
is not Jason Voorhees in the original horror movie. He's not the killer. The killer is, spoiler alert. And folks, we would love to invite you to put Friday the 13th. If you do not have it, find it, put it on and watch along with us, or watch after or before. It's a lot of fun. It's a great movie. We're talking about Friday the 13th from 1980. And, the original killer was not Jason Voorhees in his hockey mask machete wielding self. No. It is actually
Pamela Voorhees.
Oh, the same last name. Why?
Because that's his mama.
Hey, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Well, let's kind of put like an addendum to that. Hell hath no fury like a mother scorned. So,
all right, let's start taking care of business and actually get down to it.
Absolutely.
So we're already drinking our favorite beverages, but as you know, if you've listened to Slash's Paradise before, we have this wonderful game called Slash Word.
Oh, it's a great game.
Danny, tell them all about it.
Slash Word is basically the horror version created by Slash's Paradise of the popular game Pathword, as to where you, the listener, if you hear the slash word, take a drink from your favorite beverage of choice, whether it be, we got some soda, some purple stuff, and or Sunny D, or stuff. Right, that was the commercial. Whatever you got, guys, alcoholic or not, be safe, be hydrated, and definitely be involved in the slash word.
Yes. So for today, Danny, who is bringing us the slash word?
Well, we tried very hard to get this person to bring us the slash word, and we're very excited. Not only is this a first for Slash's Paradise to have an iconic slasher talking, because they're usually silent, but it's a bit of a technical slasher talking. Today we are having Miss Pamela Voorhees, whilst inhabiting and or channeling the spirit of her dead son Jason, giving us the slash word today.
All right, so Pamela, Jason, please go ahead. You're on the line. Give us our slash word of the night.
The slash word is Jason. Kill her, Mommy. Kill her. Don't let her get away, Mommy. Don't let her live. I won't, Jason. I won't.
All right. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Everyone, please fill your tiki cups.
Get some have a good
juice
time
in there, a little rum.
Yeah.
I think have a good time tonight.
Yeah, make it a little tropical. 13th. It is a paradise.
And you know what? We got to get back to our roots on that. I'm wearing a lei right now.
Yeah. We both got laid.
Yeah.
What? I can't make that joke? Muka Lakahiki. I know you want to lay me. Pass the poem, mahalo.
Oh my! You know what I realized? You know what was the funniest thing I realized is when we were doing this show, I was like, I became my hero at some point. I became Wayne from Wayne's World because
Heck yeah.
I have a public access show and I get to talk about whatever I want. I choose slashers and horror films, but I became my hero. This is who I grew up watching. Was Wayne's World,
and I can drum, so I guess I'm Garth.
You're Garth. That's
okay,
amazing.
right on, man.
All right, we are talking about Friday the 13th today. Danny, more business. Let's get down to the pumpkin spice latte.
Absolutely. Friday the 13th is Halloween in the woods.
Did you beat our shortest ever PSL just now? Are you kidding me?
I had to, folks. If I would be a disgrace to the fandom of Halloween if I did not mention that, because that's quite frankly the truth. But if I'm going to be honest, here's the pumpkin spice latte.
All right.
For Friday the 13th. It centers around a small group of counselors who are trying to reopen a storied, albeit bad history, bad vibes and bad past of a summer camp. And they're, whilst doing that, they are being stalked by an unknown assailant and must try to survive the night, which is coincidentally on Friday the 13th.
All right, and our breakdown for the film. It was released on May 9th, 1980. It was written by Victor Miller, directed by Sean S. Cunningham, and the budget was $550,000.
Hey, that's a mortgage. Somewhere else.
Our box office ended up being $59 million.
So they made their budget back.
We just missed $60 million on this one. So and starring Betsy Palmer, Adrienne King, Janine Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
You know where I'm going next.
Oh yes, the 7 degrees of
Kevin Bacon,
or 6 degrees. It doesn't matter. Kevin Bacon,
Robbie Morgan, Harry Crosby.
That's a famous last name.
It is. You know what the mix is here? You know who this person is related to?
Bing Crosby?
Yes, it is. Harry Crosby actually went for this role, did not want any connections to his father.
Okay.
Did not want to be no handouts.
Maybe go by a different last name then.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. So Harry Crosby, Laurie Bartram, and a slew of others. But that's our movie. That's our breakdown.
Of course, we have very important to be mentioned as associated with this movie. Along with the titans of industry, as far as horror industry that you just mentioned, we definitely have to mention that Tom Savini is definitely attached to this movie. He is doing the special and or practical effects, all special effects, monster creating, as in he created Jason. When you see him in this movie, that was Tom Savini's creation, the boy in the lake. That was all him. So I don't know how rights work or anything like that, because I know there was some sort of a description, but he ends up being he is the reason that Jason, the boy in the lake, looks that way.
Right.
Do you know this goes back to, okay, let's just get into it. I guess we can just do that. I think everyone has a Friday the 13th series story, whether they were listening to it, watching it on a marathon. If it's Friday the 13th, you can bet your ass that there's going to be a marathon somewhere on cable, whether it was always Spike. Before that, it was like TNT.
Oh yeah.
TBS would do it. I think right now you'll see it like on the Paramount TV. AMC. They all might be owned by the same company, quite honestly. But the point is that there was always, on Friday the 13th, there was always a marathon. I remember that as a kid. I remember being introduced, because I was not old enough to watch any of these. I'm saying any of these. Okay, that's not true. I watched, I think, Freddy versus Jason in theaters. So that technically counts. Maybe Jason X. I'm not sure. But none of the original Friday the 13th I was able to see in theaters.
Yeah, same here.
I was introduced to Jason and or the original, obviously, because of cable.
Yeah.
Cable introduced me to these movies. I think a lot of people are in our generation and a little bit after definitely have that. I personally, I know I've invited you, have thrown Friday the 13th parties almost all the time, and they're Jason centric, and everybody came dressed as their favorite character from Friday the 13th. I fought the urge to be Shelley. I ended up being because there's not a lot of bearded characters in these movies, you know, because back then, if like in the 80s, right, it's like I think it was still like, you know, it's all about the clean cut. Well, okay, Sean S. Cunningham, when he was casting this, when he was looking for the kids, what did he say?
He says he wants kids that would be cast in a Pepsi commercial.
And boy, did he. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, there's a certain, I believe the Friday the 13th movies hit me in a different nostalgia bone than the Halloweens and or maybe the Nightmares will ever. It's different. It's just like there's something like summery about it, you know?
Yeah, it's an easy watch.
I think
almost.
so.
You know, throughout the movie, there's horror elements, there's scary moments, but there's so much shot during the day. I mean, it actually happens over 24 hours.
Yeah.
The first film that we're talking about.
It should be usually, but it's a simple movie.
It's
a very simple movie. It's a very simple story. You know, something happened in 1958 at the camp, the original Camp Crystal Lake. And that's how the movie opens. It opens with the original camp where it's picking up the day after Jason has drowned.
It's not the year after? I thought it was 57 that he drowned.
Okay. So Jason has drowned by this point. So the camp is continuing on, and no, it's not going to continue on because Jason isn't just some casualty. Not according to Mrs. Voorhees, I'll tell you that right now. It's just not, because she says, hell no, you're not going to have fun here at this camp. Right. You know, the counselors were too busy making love. They didn't. He wasn't a very good swimmer.
There
I
it is.
love that shit. I love it. I love the way she, at the end of the movie, when Betsy Palmer, Pamela Voorhees is giving the explanation to basically the last surviving counselor as to why, you know, this shit. And it's not like nobody has warned other counselors about the history of this camp, which, I mean, it's called Camp Crystal Lake, but they ended up calling it Camp Blood. Yes. Right. Okay. But so the opening, it's very simple, because when I say Halloween in the woods, I'm not gatekeeping horror, guys. I'm not trying to like say that Halloween is the only thing that's good and everything else sucks, because I am in a way, yes, saying that. But at the same time, they intended to rip off Halloween and ride its coattails. That is an actual quote from one of the filmmakers.
Yes.
And he's
from the writer, actually.
From the writer, yeah. I want to ride the coattails of Halloween and ride it all the way to the bank. And they sure did. Because at this point, you know, this is the absolute heyday of the slasher film. And this wasn't, as much money as this one made, Lance, this one wasn't even the most lucrative of that year.
No.
Like, it had stiff competition.
Yeah, where we had The Shining,
The Fog, a bunch of movies in the 80s that were like, and this one didn't even rank in the top 10 of, you know, grossing movies that year. But getting back to the opening is POV. Well, where have I seen the POV shot to open the movie?
Where have we seen
that? Of course, yeah, we see it in Halloween. I mean, it's the point of view you would later see it is Michael Myers. Well, this one is no different. It's the point of view of the killer, but you never see who the killer is. Right. It's actually a pretty interesting opening. They freeze frame on the final victim,
which I love.
You were talking about that earlier about the human element, or like putting yourself in that person's shoes, essentially.
Well, it's something that we've kind of talked about before, but we can talk about again, was we put the Slasher's Paradise eye on it. We watch the movie again and try to really sink into it as if it's the first time, or just really pay attention. Because like you said, when it's on TV, we just kind of glaze over. Like, we know the movie. We've seen it when we're way too young, probably, but watched it so many times that we just know it. So we just kind of like, yeah, it's on. But then when you go back and actually like turn off all the lights and you watch the movie again, you're like, ooh, okay, I can put myself in the shoes of the victims or the killer or whatever it is. Yeah. And so the first kill was Barry and Claudette.
Well, hold on. Hold it. I just want to talk about Barry.
Okay.
Okay, folks, it opens with a group of counselors around a fireplace One of them's playing the guitar. They're all doing camp songs.
Yes.
And Barry is definitely laying on the I charm, or the I wanna do you right now charm, with what was her name again? Claudette. It is hard, Lance, to try and flirt with someone across a room while singing a gospel hymn. Michael, row your boat ashore. And Barry is choosing to have his deep vibrato moment on the hallelujah part. He's like, hallelujah. That's too much. But it's like, he's definitely giving her the eyes. And there's like something, I think there's something kind of sinister to that, right?
Sinister? I did not.
No. I mean, not for Barry, but the setting in general, how there is terror, there is evil present, but these group of kids are singing a gospel hymn. I don't know, man. There's just something about that adds extra suspense and or terror for me, at least. I mean, I grew up, a Catholic church going kid. There's something about that, I think. But I don't know. I think it's just props to Barry, because he succeeds. He gets Claudette to see his vibrato moment.
He's locked eyes with her through this whole thing. You're right. There is something mixed with the wholesomeness and the scary, and and the movie opens with crickets, and there's no real music except for these kids singing, and there's something so terrifying about crickets and darkness.
But crickets, and if anyone follows me on Twitter at DannyGo16, you will know that I had a recent thought as to things getting bad raps. The loon, the common loon, the bird.
Yes.
It makes that sound. It makes that. It looks like a duck. It's a duck. It's a duck, man. Well, it's not really a duck. It looks more like
birds on this episode.
But I'm saying, what I'm saying here is what I'm saying is that you also hear the loon, and the loon call finds its way into a lot of wilderness-based horror movies. So I was like, do loons get a bad rap? But then you see a picture of a loon, and it's got red eyes, and it's all black, and you're like, all right, you actually are terrifying. So you deserve it. But it looks like a duck on water, but it's actually a bird. But anyway, crickets, the loon, you're very much like, oh, it's in the wilderness. So yeah, I like the opening, but yeah.
I love a quiet opening. We get it kind of with Black Christmas and I love
Halloween
the crickets.
too. Well, Halloween opens with the Trick or Treat song, but whatever.
Right, and we'll talk about the soundtrack in a minute and the significance of it in this film, Friday the 13th. But what I really want to talk about, get back to, is Claudette.
Yes.
Watching it this time around with that different eye on it, Claudette's death is so much more interesting to me now, because we do a true crime podcast on Dead Candy, but it kind of makes me think of the true crime, the last moment of somebody. She is up in the attic. She just saw her boyfriend, or Barry, whoever Barry is to her.
Right. The
fellow
flavor of
counselor.
the minute. Yeah.
Right. Dying. We saw that. happen. So now Claudette is struggling. She has nowhere to go in the attic, and she kind of fumbles into a corner, has nowhere else to go, and the killer comes, and we get this slow motion close up of her face, and it reminds me of like true crime or like a real death. There's something to it, and there's so much cheese in this movie, and I think a lot of it was I remember, I don't know who the quote came from, but in this movie they had said, we just wanted to get the cameras rolling and see what we could make. We just wanted everything to go off and make a full-length movie. So when you see there's like some real elements of this, especially with Claudette, it's one of the first ones, and we'll talk about Marcy later. But there's this real moment of like, that was her last moments, and it kind of captures the last moment of somebody being killed very well.
I think so. I actually, because this movie, for its copycatness that it is of Halloween, it doesn't feature a masked killer. It just features an unknown assailant. But like, there are definitely some aspects of it. It's all about, when we say it's simple, it's suspense, right? It's building up. It's building up. It's about the victim unknowingly or, kind of cautiously exploring their surroundings, knowing that something is up, and basically gonna end up meeting their doom they're all doomed. That's actually Crazy Ralph, who's like the prophet in this movie. I mean, because look, these kids are definitely warned for the most part.
Yeah.
They're definitely warned that there's something going on at that camp, and that camp isn't like the best thing. One is even told to quit before, you know, they're kids, they're know-it-alls. You know what I'm saying? Can you dig it? You know? I do have to give a shout out to Officer Dorf.
Yes, you do.
Officer Dorf, who's looking for Crazy Ralph because, you know, he's a bit of a nuisance on the town, you know, spouts his gospel, rides a bike with no seat cushion. It's just like, that's so uncomfortable, you know, but he's crazy and he's Ralph. So he's like, you're all doomed. Going up to Camp Blood, ain't ya? Ain't ya? It's got a death curse. So he's like the... I know, and I'm failing my theater teachers from college, and I do apologize, but there's definitely there's a Shakespearean element to his character. Is like the herald, or I'm not even gonna try, but he's basically the prophet, yeah, he's like the harbinger, you know, he's like the guy who's like, you know, or the character who's saying that this is going to happen. Heed my warnings. Don't go into the woods. Yeah. There is evil that lurks out there, but he's painted in such a batshit crazy way that nobody really gives a shit. And they're like, no, it's just Ralph. Even like one of the townspeople's like, shut up, Ralph. You know, I mean, so he's easy to write off, but like at the end of it, you're like, oh, Ralph wasn't crazy.
No, Ralph knows all.
This camp it's not just this year that this camp was trying to be opened. As the guy who's giving Annie a ride halfway to Camp Crystal Lake, he tells her, you know, they try to open this year, and you know, the water was bad this year. There was a bunch of fires. What?
No, the history is in 57, Jason drowned. In 58,
the murders,
the two murders. In 62, the water is bad. I'm like, what was Pamela doing in 62? How did she make the water bad? Like, what was the drama behind that?
She put the dead bodies in there, probably.
Probably, right? Yeah, it's like cabin fever.
That's all you need to do, really. Yeah. Huh? That's all you really need to do to make water bad, because out there, you just, you know, there's probably like a tank or something.
Then there's fires. It was like, she was trying to find her groove. Like, am I an arsonist? Am I a murderer? Do I poison people?
Am I a waterer?
So I'm curious. I'm curious about the 58 through like 62, 63 years. I want to know what Pamela was doing in that time.
She was definitely finding her groove. But there's definitely a wholesome vibe to most of the beginning. Yeah. Because I remember, what did I talk about? What was it? I forget. I forget the one where it's like, let's all get a group together and go camping. Yeah. Remember I said?
I think it was My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah. Was it?
I think so.
It might have been. Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, basically what I'm saying is like these group of kids, they're young, you know, they're hot, you know, their hormones are flowing. Some of them are good at like handy stuff. So there's a bit of sexiness, you know, oozing off of like some of the men. Some of the girls are just like a little bit more forward with themselves, with, you know, with their sexuality. There's a lot going on. And like you could remember that age. And some of us, you know, maybe we're still hovering around it and never left it. But what the point is that there's definitely a fun sort of theme attached to what each of these may be experiencing. They're like, oh yeah, we have archery, we're gonna be swimming. Some, you know, we're all hot for each other. You know, this is gonna be the best fucking summer of our lives. You know, absolutely. Why not?
Yeah, of course. It's a perfect setup for somebody in their teens.
Yep.
Which I think they're a little older, obviously, but
oh yeah, Bill's got a 5:00 shadow.
Yeah, I mean they're very mature for their age, but we'll say. But we got to talk. I mean, Kevin Bacon is in this.
Okay, so
a very young Kevin Bacon.
You know, talk about horror movies launching stars. Let's be honest. Kevin Bacon, I mean, everyone has their deal, right? Kevin Bacon is the Friday the 13th star that got launched. Johnny Depp is the Nightmare on Elm Street star. Of course, Jamie Lee Curtis, and then again Josh Hartnett in, you know, later in H2O. I mean, later in the Halloween franchise, Jennifer Aniston in Leprechaun. I mean, I can keep going, folks. You know, everyone at one point or another George Clooney was doing a lot of cheesy horror movies.
Oh yeah,
so
that's true.
Everyone pretty much got their launch. Not everyone, but like big stars, and this is Kevin Bacon, brand new, and you see him, and it's like, this is Footloose Kevin Bacon. This is the bacon is just out of the package. You know, it hasn't even sniffed a frying pan. I'll tell you that right now.
Right. And that's what's so great about it. Like there's just young, fun talent. It's like we will eventually get to The Burning. Like There's young talent in The Burning, and there's a very similar take on The Burning that reminds me so much of Friday the 13th. But just young, fun talent, people having a good time, and we just got the cameras rolling.
Yep.
And there's a killer on the loose.
I think what was going to be so special about this movie because if you haven't seen this movie, folks, please take it all in before you hear. Well, you already heard the spoiler, but the point is that I think that's what was so huge was that you never saw who the killer was. You just saw what the killer was doing. Mm-hmm. And then finally the reveal is, holy shit, you're the killer.
Right.
It's definitely a murder mystery. It's definitely a whodunit, but they went where Halloween didn't go for the goriness. Friday the 13th did, and actually had to be asked by the MPAA to edit because it was too gory.
Yeah, well, they actually let more go than they should have. They regretted letting this cut of the film go, and there's actually an unrated cut and a theatrical cut. There's a lot of backlash over the theatrical.
Yes.
So for part 2, they actually asked the filmmakers of part 2 to dumb down some of the gore. So actually, Friday the 13th part 1 is more gory than Friday the 13th part 2.
Which you wouldn't suspect because sequels definitely want to raise the bar, go further. There are rules. There are rules, Lillian. No, there are rules, right? That's what Randy, rest in peace, always says about, the new iteration of a horror franchise is like you have to up the stakes.
Right.
Which I do think that the sequel does up the stakes in the sense of like they elaborated on. Hell, they introduced the psycho killer that we know. I said psycho killer.
Far better.
Run. Yeah. So brand new Kevin Bacon sharing this awesome. I got to talk about this scene because look, guys, I don't want to talk about your shit, right?
It is.
But I'm from Texas, right? I'm as y'all may know or not. I'm from the ranch. South Texas area, and we pray for. There are two moments. There are only two ways of life for a rancher. It's praying and waiting for rain, and then enjoying the rain while it's there. Okay, that's it. So I've experienced my fair share of thunderstorms and or rain and stuff, but there is a scene in this movie that when I saw it and when I was able to actually appreciate it, and it's a line by Kevin Bacon, anytime I get a chance that there may be some rain in the forecast, I say Kevin Bacon's line. He's on the lake shore with Annie, right? Sorry, not Annie. Marcy. He's on the lake shore with Marcy, they're definitely hot for each other. It's definitely gonna go down between them two. They're embracing each other. Mm-hmm. You got the water. Oh, come on, guys. This is so awesome. So romantic. And then, the worst fake lightning that you can possibly imagine shot like flashes from, off camera and onto them. It just lights them up in a way. It's like, did a transformer blow up? Like, why does it look that way? In any case, Kevin Bacon's character responds to, he's like, oh, it's going to storm. Can tear down that valley like a son of a gun. Every time, without fail, you can ask my fiance, you can ask my parents, you can ask anybody who knows anything about anything that's associated with me. I will say, it's going to storm. Yeah, I could tear down that valley like a son of a gun right before it's about to rain or if it's going to rain. And sometimes I scare the rain away. But in this movie, he does not scare the rain away because for the better part of it, at least halfway, it is pouring
rain. And my favorite part of that scene is Marcy. Marcy actually tells a story that's kind of foreboding where it's this dream that she's had several times throughout her life about this rain coming down, and it sounds like pebbles are falling, and then all of a sudden the rain turns to blood, and then the raindrops turn into footsteps or something like that, and it's kind of terrifying. But she goes off on this little dream tangent kind of a thing, and she's like almost lost in this nightmare. And only a little bit of the horror elements have really touched the movie. So when you get that, you're like, oh, it's another deep cut. It reminds me of the Claudette thing. They both hit me the same way, of a very realistic take on death and life and dreams, and even a foreboding idea that this death is coming and it's always been coming for you in the same way. because the whole night it's raining.
Oh, but it's raining.
Yeah.
It's like that must have been. Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know what it takes to create artificial rain in the sense of like, because there's no way. There's absolutely no way they shot that with real rain. I just can't.
No,
Maybe.
especially on this budget. How do they?
That's
do
what I'm
that?
saying. Is like, did all of the budget go to the rain? Because that shit is pouring, and it is gratuitous rain. Like, it is. Whoa. It's a storm I want to be involved in. It's definitely a storm that I would say, you know what, guys, let's just, let's all come in. Let's all go inside. Let's lock our doors. Let's bolt our windows. Right. And let's play strip Monopoly.
I knew that was coming.
What, Lance? If you're going to make me play Monopoly, let me just point that out right now. If you're going to make me play Monopoly, first of all, you have to have a gun to my head.
Okay.
If you don't have a gun, you have to dangle nudity in front of me.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the only way.
That's fair because it's going to be a 4-hour endeavor at least. At least
4-day endeavor. Dude, last time I played Monopoly, I don't even want to talk about it. It took too long. I think I did one full calendar year at school. No, because Monopoly can keep going on and on, but there's a scene, guys. Obviously, I'm alluding to a scene in the movie where, and let's just talk about Bing Crosby's son. Let's just talk about Bill, right?
Yes.
Bill in this movie is the most wholesome, but honestly, fellas, if you're out there and you're having trouble deciding which way you want to play it, if you're wanting to flirt with girls, if you're wanting to be around girls and you feel like you don't, Bill is your safe, sure as shit way to come off as a cool, calm, collected, in control, masculine person.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you guys want to play strip Monopoly?
I didn't bring it up.
Oh, well, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every time there's a situation, because like, okay, you hit the lottery. 2 girls want to play strip Monopoly with you. Holy shit. I mean, as a teen and as a young adult, this is it, right?
This is the dream.
So you have to be like a duck on water, right? You got to be just like cool and calm above, but inside you're like, hell yes.
Yeah,
right. Absolutely. I think that's another thing we maybe should, also, talk about. We'll probably talk about it a lot more in the other sequels. The sex element is very much a interest and drawing point to a lot of young males who are watching this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to be very honest, man. I watch these movies I watched them for the kills, and they were very, creative, but I definitely watched them for the sex appeal. I was a young dude.
It's all dangerous, right? Like,
yes.
We flock to danger no matter what. So we get sex, we get horror, we get scary, we get it all. And this movie, like I said, I think is more the staple for the 80s than Halloween was, though as a ripoff of Halloween. It's a cheap ripoff of Halloween.
Yeah.
And everything that comes after this tries to capture it, but there's just something special about Friday the 13th. I think it's the cast.
That's definitely a huge part of it because this cast just works seamless together.
Yeah, and it adds legitimacy. I mean, like the tear the valley down like a son of a gun, right?
Yeah.
Like, what other movie naturally can say that line? There's no other actors really.
No, I mean, but like
time.
He needed to say that line. There's just something about, because like I think every character in this movie is pretty much fleshed out. Alice is going to be the Laurie wannabe, but she's going to be Laurie. She's going to be the wholesome, sweet girl who has a history with Jack Christie, who is the guy who is opening up the camp, whose family has a little bit of ties to the area, he's dropped at least $25,000 in that thing, and for what? It's so Jack Christie's the guy. He's got a little bit of history with Alice. You can see there's a situation going on there. So she's the wholesome one. You really don't see Jack for most of the movie essentially until he needs to get it. But Bill is he's the dude in charge when Jack's not there. Yeah. He's also wholesome. He's the guy who's like, hey, I need help starting the generator or whatever. Ted is the cut up.
Yeah.
Right. That's his
crazy people around.
Oh my God. That dude went for it. There's a little bit of things that didn't age, perfectly, obviously, in this movie. A little bit of cultural appropriation, as you would imagine for an 80s movie. But I think Jack is pretty much, because there's certain and this is Kevin Bacon's character. There's certain aspects you're like, okay, he's going to be asshole about this, but he doesn't. And you're like, oh, he's going to be macho bravado about this, but he doesn't. Like he kind of is.
He could have been a Bill too. You know, what I mean?
He's a little middle of the road. Yeah. But he definitely gets the girl. I think maybe that's his character. He's the one that pretty much scores on camera. With his love interest, who apparently was Ted's. He gets a little jealous as he sees Jack and Marcy making out and kissing or whatnot.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of creative deaths. But what about the music, Lance?
The music, Danny.
What about the score?
It's terrifying. There's only one real. Well, there's two at the end, but there's only one real song or one real track.
Yes, but there's something else. I mean, first of all, Harry Manfredi, right, is the composer. Wonderfully done. Ring. Dun, 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 dun.
Just
dun, 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 dun.
You talk about the play up of like the action that's coming.
It's a little like. Because that like ring, that's like it's violins and there's a lot of strings, but it's very much high intensity and abrupt intensity. It almost serves as a jump scare in itself.
Yeah,
ring. Mm-hmm. There's a little Jaws, shark approaching to it, but for the most part, there's that, but that's usually when there's a chase going on. But what's cool about this score is you only hear it. There's one rule about rules. There's one rule about this score, Lance. You can only hear it. What's the rule? You can only hear it when? When
the killer is present.
Oh, isn't that cool?
That's an awesome thing.
But it's not like, hey guys, come see our new movie, Friday the 13th. Audiences in the 1980s. By the way, when you hear the score, that means that the killer's present. Nobody's fucking saying that.
No.
That's not a handout. That's not in the pamphlet. I'm not buying it shoes, dude. I'm not fucking buying it a beer. Anyway.
No, and I love that, and because we grew up with these movies, this soundtrack is so synonymous to people chase. It's not a car chase kind of music; it's a people chase, and it reminds me of stalking in the woods, going after the person, or and that has become so synonymous to me, which I love so much.
I also have to talk about the because so what do I almost opened the show that way. Is now listen. All right, I'm not gonna talk a bunch of shit, but I have to talk it right now, guys. I just did the Jason noise, but it wasn't Jason's noise to begin with.
No,
it is Mrs. Voorhees channeling Jason, pretty much saying, "Kill her, mommy, kill her, kill her, mommy, kill her, kill her, mommy, kill her, kill her, mommy, kill her, mommy, kill." That's what it had. That's where, guys, I'm pretty proud of myself.
That was
pretty good, right? I'm pretty excited.
That was fire. That's
man.
Right there, man.
That's it.
That was it.
Yeah, that's it. So when you're hearing, because everyone and their grandmother will do the Jason, Friday the 13th, and it's not CH, and it's not ha 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 as in Joker. It's ki mama. And yes, I will actually to a lot of people, and of course every horror fan is rolling their eyes at me right now, and I get it, guys. But no one's here to judge. This is a paradise. You came to relax. That is where the sound originated. It originated with Mrs. Voorhees channeling Jason, saying "kill her, mommy" over and over again, and that it got attached to the masked man himself. So that's what's really cool, I think, and synonymous about this whole series, of course.
What you have to talk about is that this is a hot button fan thing. You know what I mean? Like, fans will debate. Did you know that fact? So, and we pride ourselves at Slashers Paradise of being the in between.
Yes.
New fans and older fans that know this stuff.
Yeah.
We're trying to bring everyone to the same level, build the community, have friends.
We are the bridge to Terabithia. Like, we are
Terabithia?
What? No, we like to be the bridge. That's what we didn't make the Slashers Paradise to be, cerebral, and there are some things that I will be very passionate about, and so will Lance, but this is a relaxed sort of, experts can come here and so can novices, and I'd like to say I'm an expert at some things and a novice at others.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here.
But know what I am a novice at? Being Bill. No, I can't. I was not Bill. Sorry, Lance. I was not Bill in those moments of, it's time, to shoot your shot or to maybe flirt a little bit. I would not have kept it together as much as Bill did. So the man gets all my fucking props.
All this circled back to the Bill and Monopoly moment.
Hey man, the rules of improv, bring it back, bring it back. But I'll tell you, so watch that scene. Okay. I'm going to try my hardest now, Lance, and you may need to, either edit this out or rope me in, but I just need to talk about something that as a young Danny, I am maybe, watching this and being a fan of. And you know what? As an older Danny, I was still looking at it and I was very happy with it. The underwear of choice.
Okay.
All I'm going to say is that it looks nice. It looks it's all satin. All the women chose satin underwear, whether it was Marcy or
Brenda.
It's satin. It looks soft. Men's underwear suck. You know what I mean? Like it's either is it cotton? Yes, wear it, right? Or is it spandex? I guess you could wear it too. By the way, very jealous of Jack as his that's Kevin Bacon as his swimsuit of choice. Speedos, just comfortable enough to just be out there in Speedos.
Oh,
yeah, fuck it.
Well, it's the 80s. Yeah.
Oh, but Ted is out there with jorts. That would be me. That would be me. Hey guys, I had to bring my swim trunks. Let me just cut off my rustlers real quick.
Yeah, it's a style of the 80s. It really, this franchise captured the 80s 110%.
I totally agree. And along with the underwear. I was a fan of the underwear. They're soft, Lance. I don't touch them. I don't have a 4D TV, but they just look soft, and I appreciated that. And it's just something I'm just noticing. That's it. Thank you. I'm done.
No, I think the women kind of have a more of a 70s vibe to this, and this is this came out in the 80s. So
it's on the fringe. It's not like people stopped right at it's 80. We can't do the things we were doing.
I will say the franchise captured the 80s more. I say the women in the first film at least very much more capture the 70s, but Marcy is just the fox. Brenda's kind of intriguing. I think all the women of it are intriguing from the male standpoint.
Sure.
And then it's the kind of boys club. Like all the guys just kind of get along, and it's just
for the most part. I think if I was talking about myself, as I tend to do, I would fall more into, and I hate it, but I would fall more into a Ted. But pulling it back, Ted was just he was almost too obnoxious and too jokey to like, or to, as far as that's just maybe me just being as dude, pull it back a little bit.
I think that's the one you get the one pullback when he's a little jealous, and that's the one he does have a heart, and he just wanted the girl, but
but look. The 80s are definitely big. The 80s decade is very much, and the 90s, but the 80s for sure is a definitely heavily influencer. It's a heavy influence on both Lance and I. I think, we were both born in the decade, but there's definitely aspects of it that it's just nostalgia be damned, right? These are things that, and that's all it is. It's nostalgia at its core. It reminds us of a time I would love to go back in time where, it was Friday the 13th and it was Friday. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you're obviously done with school for the week, and all you get to do, shit. I'm going to try not to get emotional. It's happening to me, but let me live in my moment. But the point is that I can remember being upstairs, and there's the golden hour, man. We're talking about the time the sun is setting, and all it is. And it's whoever's introducing it. It might have been Elvira. It might have been what's her name from Up All Night. And it's and get ready for the horror-thon. And it is Friday the 13th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, or whatever, was out at that time. And it's just this is going to be scary. Can I be watching it? I mean, it's the excitement of new. I think that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, we have to talk about there's a lightness to the franchise. There's something so much more watchable. When I say that, I mean Halloween is watchable, and we love Halloween. But it's what has always set the difference is that Michael's a little more serious. There's a different tone to Michael Myers and Halloween than there is to Friday the 13th and Jason. We're not talking about Jason yet, but I'm talking about the franchise as a whole. There's something so watchable and fun about Friday the 13th. I told you, this is one of the movies 1, 2, and 3, especially, where I would just throw it on and I'd watch probably the beginning to about the last quarter of it the most. And I knew the ending. I know the whole movie.
Sure, yeah.
But for some reason, I would just throw it on. I was so comfortable watching it. It was just such a watchable movie. This one in particular.
I mean, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. I think this is another one that's like every horror fan has to have the box set. And if you don't, folks, of course, there's like there's bundles all the time digitally. But I would definitely, I'll put it this way. I have it on DVD. I have it digitally, and I am thinking about buying it again. Actually, I have it on Blu-ray. I don't have it on DVD. What am I, an idiot? But I'm thinking about buying that box set again from Scream Factory. Same people.
Yes.
I'm thinking about buying it from them. I saw yours. It looks awesome.
Yeah, I just cracked it open. It's
yeah.
amazing.
Is it great?
I'm excited to really like dive into it. I literally just cracked it open and I'm like, there's all of this. I'm trying to find it all and figure it out. Cause I do, you've kind of mentioned this before. Like, am I more of a Michael Myers fan? Am I a Jason fan? I love both of them very much. Michael has the edge.
Yeah, Michael has to have the edge.
I like more of the thrill, like more of the serious tone, but man, Jason is fun. Friday the 13th
Jason is
fun.
Yeah. But you know what else, Lance, is also it's interesting. When you watch Friday the 13th, 1980, the one we're watching right now, the one we're talking about right now, the stalking techniques don't really change. No. They eventually get a little bit more hokey as like the series goes on, and we will definitely dive into that. But the stalkingness of the mother, Mrs. Voorhees, is definitely inherited by Jason. It's a little bit of a gray area as to if he died, guys, if he drowned in the lake, because he wasn't a very good swimmer. If he died in the lake, why is he alive and stalking people and killing them? Right. Yeah. It's kind of, there's, like every franchise that kind of goes on too long, it definitely jumps the shark, essentially.
And it really didn't even have to.
I mean,
I think it did get a remake, and I think the remake kind of proved like all we want was Jason and, the stalking and the killing. You didn't have to jump the shark. You didn't have to halfway go to Manhattan. You didn't
have to make him a full zombie. No. If you're watching Freddy versus Jason, and sorry to jump a little bit, but if you're watching Freddy versus Jason in the beginning, Jason's view, he's seeing his mom, and she's like, basically, you have to introduce this character again. And she's like, do you know what makes you special, Jason? No matter what they do to you, you cannot die. You can never die. I'm like, who the frick wrote this? Yeah. I was like, I get it. They have done a lot to Jason and he keeps on surviving, but there's like, the simplicity is not having to explain it over and over again, I think, a lot of times. So,
right. Everyone knows the story at this point. What I will say about this movie in particular, Friday the 13th, what I feel like the movies can't capture anymore is the darkness. It's a low budget film. Mm-hmm. The lighting is so sparse.
A lot of harsh shadows.
But also there's a lot of times when they're filming outdoors and it's just a black background, and there's something kind of creepy to that.
Absolutely.
Anything can be out there because we don't see the killer to the very end. We don't know who the killer is. So the killer at all times could be out there. By the way, there's a scene where you were just talking about a little bit ago where they're all on the deck, and we got the Speedos going on. We're just enjoying a day in the sun. I'm so curious. I haven't ever asked anybody about this, but we know that somebody's stalking the kids from the woods. And I think it's Brenda that actually notices, like, what is that? And then they go to a shot of the woods. Are you always looking for
every time?
Every single time. Okay.
Every single time.
We are always looking for whoever it is.
Because
in
look,
the woods.
When we say you never see the killer, like you see like the back of the killer. They're trying to keep it ambiguous the whole time. You see the feet, you see the legs, you hear, you see you see the hands, whether they be a woman's hands or not. But the point is that like it's very much left up to the imagination. It could honestly be anybody. You're wondering, and they really don't talk about Jason. They just talk about that something happened in 57 and it's been cursed ever since. That's pretty normal. That's pretty nice setup. But up until when it's time to start talking turkey is what I'm talking about. When people need to start dying and dying badly, things get a little bit more like, okay, no more. being coy with it. We're gonna show you. We have to show you eventually, and eventually is. They show you everyone dies. You know, Jack Christie dies. Everyone, Bill, Jack, Ted, Annie. Annie definitely died. Brenda and Marcy, they are all dead. So we're left with Alice, who is finding all these bodies, akin to Laurie Strode finding them in the home, and it's just left up to the final girl and the killer. And rolling up in her Jeep Wrangler, Mrs. Voorhees just pops off, and it's played by Betsy Palmer, who did not get a warm reception, quite frankly, for doing this movie.
No, her fans hated it.
Why?
Because she's wholesome. She
was like on TV.
She was on TV. She was a sitcom actress.
Gene Siskel, folks, and if you want to look up any sort of trivia, you know Siskel and Ebert ripped her so bad for being in this movie. First of all, nobody at the time, this might as well have been porn on TV or in the theaters. Might as well have been, for the way these critics were reacting. Gene Siskel tore this movie apart, and her in particular, he was so heated. What an unprofessional. He was so heated with, and this is, of course, according to trivia, so heated with her being in this movie and doing what she did and the betrayal to her fans, that in his review published her address and urged fans to write her and protest her. Idiot apparently published the wrong address.
Yes. Yeah,
if that's true, that would be friggin' hilarious. But that is definitely the story. And what's funny is that Betsy Palmer didn't really give a shit and care for this movie.
No.
Why? Because it is known that at the first, I think, read through of the script, she said, "This is a piece of shit," and threw the script away. And I don't know if Victor Miller was there or anything, but like they retold this story. This is the story. She even say it like Betsy Palmer's like, "Oh, I thought it was a piece of shit, but I needed to buy a new car."
Yeah.
So I figured this will be out quick enough. I get a nice little payday. I'll buy a new car.
Nobody will see it.
Oh, people saw it, Betsy.
Wonder what car she got.
A Datsun. I hope a Jeep Wrangler, because she is, first of all, hauling ass in that when she kills Annie. She's like, driving it around in the rain and such. But yeah, final showdown. She shows up right in front of Alice, and it's Alice is. I was watching with the subtitles on, and you know how some subtitles care and some subtitles don't.
Yeah,
right, because it's like they're like, I'll paraphrase what he said. Like, no, say everything. These subtitles definitely cared, because it's like yelping in horror, rising in suspicion, in parentheses and such. So when Mrs. Voorhees is basically making herself known to Alice and saying, "Oh, it's fine. Are you okay? Everything's okay." And Alice is like hysterical. She's like, "Oh, they're going to kill you." And my favorite line, there are so many lines that Mrs. Voorhees says that are very exciting, Lance, "The counselors were too busy making love. They weren't paying attention when the young boy drowned. His name was Jason. You see, Jason's my son, and today is his birthday." All the teeth. She's showing all the teeth. Yes. And those are all great, great lines. "Jason should have been watched every minute. He wasn't a very good swimmer." I love that line. But my favorite line, I think, is her creepiest line. Alice is warning her, "Please don't go over there. Everyone's dead. No, you'll die too, or he'll kill you too, or they'll kill you too." And Mrs. Voorhees just says, "I'm not afraid." Let that sink in, folks. It's like, why wouldn't you be afraid? And now we know why. Like, as you watch it the second time, you're like, "Ooh, I'm not afraid because I did it."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
The smile on her face is so sinister. I'll use your word.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, then she, eventually tells Alice her whole master. It's like the evil villain telling the whole master plan. And she's obviously crazy because she not only can channel her son, and she blames every counselor that comes back essentially on as if it's real time. So she turns on Alice and says, "Look what you did to him. Yeah. Look what you did to him." She has that sort of like high pitch.
Yeah.
Sorry, I apologize to you folks using headphones.
Well, what I love about that is that sets up a story. The 20 years that she has been haunting this camp. And she is, now that we know, all the stories that are about the camp blood is all because she's been haunting this camp. Anybody that messes with the camp, she's going to come after you or do something to make sure that nobody inhabits this camp, and you will be punished if you do. How terrifying, though. And then the fight begins between her and Alice
And
the cat and mouse.
Yeah, it's my only thing about the movie that like I have an issue with.
Okay.
Every person in this movie meets an ultimate, no questions asked end when they meet the killer. Betsy Palmer obviously does a lot of these fight scenes herself, and it's like, she's a little older. She's not a stunt coordinator, coordinated actor, or she's trying her best. You find it kind of hard to believe, like, well, but then again, maybe she just snuck up on everybody, and like that was actually the thing.
That's the thing,
take it
right?
back. Yeah,
because from so many of the victims, we actually see the reaction, like, "Oh, hey, didn't see you there," or "Oh, I'm so sorry."
No, that's true.
They see a woman, and you think back, like it was a much younger woman in 1958, but
right,
you see this woman, like, "Oh, sorry," and you look innocent enough, and then it's a surprise attack sort of a thing. So yeah, like it does make sense.
No, you're right. I'm going to go back on that. But I will also actually throw a lifeline and be a little bit sympathetic to Mrs. Voorhees, because she was the cook at the original camp. She was preparing meals, as she says, while her son was drowning. She's like, I'm working. Y'all are the counselors.
Right.
You know what the problem is that, not the problem, but like what is the, I guess the thought is because Jason was different.
He was a little different.
Jason was a little different. And folks, these are words that I'm reading straight from the screenplay. The description of Jason is he was a mongoloid kid. And other movies have taken it as far as to say that he was bullied and such. We just know that, if he couldn't swim or was not a very good swimmer, why was he so deep into the lake?
Right.
And some people have gone as far as to say it was never, it was actually Steve Miner, who was the director of 2 and 3, who said, this is stupid. We shouldn't make Jason the killer because Jason is just a figment of her imagination.
Interesting. Yeah. I read that as well. And I think that's a very interesting take on it.
But he's like, no, Jason never died. She's just crazy. I'm like, no, Jason died. And Jason was her kid. It's just, she was the cook there. So she probably pulled some strings. You're like, hey, let me get my kid in. Not that you have to pull a lot of strings, but like, people back then, especially in the 50s, were probably cutthroat mean to different looking people, especially, kids would have been assholes. So, yeah. Why was he drowning, or why was he in the lake so late? Maybe he was thrown in by the counselors. They didn't want to deal with his ass anymore, or maybe other kids. You never know.
Very possible. I think there's so much up in the air. It doesn't seem that there was any intention to bring Jason into this down the road. I don't know about that, but
the final chase.
I have to talk about the final chase. I have to talk about parts of the final chase.
Please do.
One of my favorite parts is Alice is trying to hide in one of the cabins, and she she hides behind like a shelving or like a cabinet or something like that. And it reminded me so much of being a kid playing hide and go seek, and you find the perfect hiding spot, and the person's at 8, and you're like, fuck, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah.
She gets behind it, it's like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. And she goes into a cabinet or into a closet or something like that. It makes me laugh every single time I see it, because it reminds me of being a kid. Like, 8, 9, shit, this isn't gonna work. They're definitely gonna find me here. I gotta go find another spot. It makes me laugh every single time. It's my favorite part of the whole chase.
Yeah, she does. She has a little bit of a Kevin McAllister thing where she tries to hide, booby trap or safeguard herself, but it just doesn't work. We're talking about, and there's, I don't think we mentioned it, but obviously there are a lot of POV shots. But when there's POV of 2 characters in the same scene, we see it with Annie and the truck driver. We definitely see it with Alice and Mrs. Voorhees. They are looking straight to camera, and there's a lot of, I think, unnervingness. You're unnerved as you're watching, because it's like an extra, seeing the way Betsy Palmer stares at the camera. It's almost like, and her sinister, she's already kind of said, yes, I'm the killer and I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
There's some it's Alice is throwing all the shit at her, right?
Yeah.
And she's just brushing it off.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's like extra creepy. The faces that she's like kind of wearing like a constant smile.
Huh?
What did I say about smiling in horror movies?
Yeah, we said it in that Hereditary, right?
Yeah, if you smile as you're being extra creepy, that is your extra creepiness. It's so yeah. It's the chase is going, and you know it's a lot of wrestling, and you know. Alice gets the upper hand like 6 or 7 times. That's overdoing it, but she does get the upper hand, and she's like, okay, this would obviously knock any normal person out. I have survived. And no, the final fight is going to take place on the shores of the lake.
Yes.
And we have a bit of a wrestling match, and you know, I feel really bad for Mrs. Voorhees because she's wearing that blue sweater, and it's one of those puffy sweaters, Lance, and a lot of sand is getting in that sweater.
Okay.
So almost like I don't want to deal with that sand. You might as well chop my head off.
But at least she's not wet. She hasn't gotten into the water. So it's not that bad. It's not that
but she's
suppressive.
She's adjacent to the water. So maybe she's just moist.
Yeah. Well, the water, the sand it is kind of sandy and wet and all this kind of stuff. You do see them rolling around and the dirt's coming up on them. And dude, I give it up to Betsy. Like she was rolling around in the dirt. Yeah. She's taking bumps.
She really wanted that car, man.
Yeah, she did. Like for saying that this is shit and hope nobody sees it and all this kind of stuff. Like she really went for it, and she took some bumps along the way.
She's a pro, man. It's like Ric Flair taking bumps at the end of his career. Yeah. But you know, a lot of people say, who is the machete wielding hockey mask killer? Right. And of course, that's Jason Voorhees.
Yes.
But if you said, who is the machete wielding character in Friday the 13th, you could say, well, it's Jason, but it's also Mrs. Voorhees. She grabs a machete.
She does.
And it's like machete ends up being like the weapon of choice for Jason.
Kind of.
I mean, like he does use a lot of stuff, but
it's synonymous with Jason. But if you actually watch through, like he's a jack of all trades. I mean, he uses a lot of things, but it's the synonymous weapon.
He should be the ultimate woodsman, right?
Yeah, totally.
And he is. Like, especially in part 2, and, you know, all of them, actually. He has an interesting kill of almost everything. You know, the machete really makes its way into, like, when it was like the tail of the tape between Freddy versus Jason. But anyway, she brings a machete in, gets the machete knocked away, and there's the final moment. And Alice has got the upper hand. They're about, 12 feet apart. And Alice says, fuck it, this girl is not going to leave me alone. I need to end it all. And the music heightens.
Slow motion now.
And Mrs. Voorhees knows, she's like, I can't do anything but wait in horror. Her mouth opens, her eyes are wide. Alice is charging her with the machete and chops her fucking head off the wrong way. She chops it off on her left side, and the cut opens from the right. It's just it was just like, mismanaged practical effects. And Tom Savini even says it. He's like, oh, dang it. But like that scene had to be filmed obviously without Betsy Palmer because they're like, we're not gonna have her do this. And if you see the uncut version, I think that's the only time that the hands kind of flail.
Yeah.
When you see that version, the hands flailing over the headless corpse, it's Tom Savini's hand. It's a man's hand. They're man's hands.
Very hairy, masculine hands.
Wearing a class ring. Which I always thought was like always an interesting, but I think, what did he say, that anytime you do see hands, they are his, I think.
Oh,
but
really?
I'm not sure. Because that just makes sense. You're having a lot of pickup shots.
That makes a lot of sense, but the one time that you really notice it is this last shot where these hands come up and they're just like, he's a darker, hairy guy.
Yeah. Tom, he's sexy as hell. I'll tell you that much.
Just based on his work.
Well, but he's also Sex Machine in From Dusk Till Dawn, lest we forget. But posting shirtless 60-plus-year-old birthday pics where he's like ripped as shit, and I'm like, okay, I'll never be that. At this age, he's anyway. Yeah, I'm giving it up to the man. Creates a lot of good horror special effects. He created Bray Wyatt's.
His mask,
the Fiend mask. Yeah,
Corey Taylor's terrible mask, but that was on Corey Taylor, not on.
He just goes from direction.
Yeah,
he's like, this is what you want, I'll do it. But so Alice is definitely the final girl. says, you know what? I don't want to go back to the cabins. They were never very safe to me. I'm going to get myself into a canoe and canoe myself out into the lake. What?
What I talked about earlier, the darkness, right? Like, and just this is where it kind of starts to fall through the cracks a little bit. It's like, well, I killed the killer. I guess I'll just take a little stroll out into the lake instead of getting into a car and driving out of the lake and going to the cops and everything.
Sure. She canoes out into the darkness, the vast darkness.
Yes, in the lake of all fucking things, water, darkness, everything. I'm going to just, and she doesn't have a paddle.
No,
she starts paddling
just
with
gets
her
out
hand.
there. Like she could, like if you were like, okay, well, let me get out here because maybe there might be another killer. If you don't go out with a paddle, you won't end up in the center of the lake like she did. You'll probably go out 5 feet and come right back because of the way the water's moving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, read a book about water. Come on.
So into the darkness she goes,
right?
And snap, it's morning.
But but the danger's over. The killer's been killed, Lance.
Yes.
The danger's over.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Maybe.
Left. So we get this very serene moment. This is where the soundtrack changes, actually. This is the first time that I remember it changing. Is the soundtrack is we have a new song or a new track.
It reminded me of 5th grade promotions.
Yeah.
Like somebody was just playing like this like generic happy sort of actually just generic and like neutral song of like a procession of like a ceremony. It's like dun dun dun.
Yeah. But it's like the music is being played through the VHS because you can hear like the tape line.
Yes.
There's something weird to the soundtrack. That's very, but it is kind of serene and it's this kind of weird moment. And she's awake. It's not like she just wakes up.
No, because she obviously, you don't hear it because you're hearing the music, but you see that the police have arrived at the shore. Right. She's definitely in the center of the lake. They've arrived at the shore. And she's having it's like this. It's supposed to be like a serene moment, like you said. It's like the danger is gone. I can enjoy life as it is. And I'll just say what happens, and then we'll talk about a little bit about like the little funny part about it. But what happens is like she's got this like outlook on life. Beautiful crystal blue eyes, by the way. Yeah. Alice has, and I'll also say that she's got this like very sweet nature about her. When it was her time to actually strip from Napoli, it was her time to take off a shirt. The game got interrupted, but they even comment on it. Like Bill asks, he's like, "Hey, were you going to go through with it?" And because like you're not the one that would go through with it. Yeah. Brenda over here, she had a girl. We named her Brenda. No, Brenda was like in her full like bra and panties. So it's like. You would expect that from Brenda, but you wouldn't expect it from Alice. So Bill was playing it. You're like, okay, never mind. Yeah. But anyway, Alice is on the lake. Triumphant music. The danger is gone, and she kind of rises up from the canoe, kind of outlook, looking up to the horizon, and out of nowhere, from the lake behind her, Jason, the boy in the lake, dives over, puts his arm around her and pulls her down into the water. And she falls out of the canoe. Another flash forward, and she's at the hospital. She's
at the hospital.
Recovering.
Yes. And this is 1980. So this is actually before Halloween 2 and our hospital stay there. So, so we get to the hospital scene and bright lights, white lights. Did it happen? And
the police are informing her. It's like, ma'am, two of my men had to pull you out of the lake. We thought you died too. And she's like, the boy, is he dead too?
There's no boy.
Boy? The boy, Jason, the one who pulled me into the water. And then another creepy line, ma'am, we didn't find any boy. Mm-hmm. Then he's still there. Oh, it's creepy, no?
Yes.
I think so. Okay, funny part about the scene, though. And what's Alice's real name?
Adrienne King.
When she, I think our cue for the stunt boy under the water is to definitely touch the water.
Right.
So as she's coming up, she definitely fumbles. It looks unnatural. The cue looks unnatural. She gets up and she looks down to touch the water, and it's almost like she's getting ready because, like, yes, you're about to be pulled under the water. It's a stunt, and it's scary shit.
It's almost like I can hear Sean Cunningham kind of like, all right, now touch the water and
Action Dirk.
Right. It's like you can almost hear the direction in your head because she is so awkward of like, okay, they'll cut that out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it gets to that point where it is just kind of an awkward acting scene, and I'm surprised it kept it, but
Well,
there's a one take.
But yeah, it had to be because like you're not going to reset that shit. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, they got it, and that's the closest and clearest version or view you get of the mongoloid boy Jason in the lake. And it turns out that the police didn't find any boy. I don't know why I'm giving him a twang, but he has to get a little bit of it.
So now I'm curious. Like, was the boy real? Was
this
the
boy
dream?
real? Was it a dream?
The boy of the lake?
The boy in the lake. Was the boy in the lake even real? Like, they pulled her out of the water.
Well, if the idea is if he was a figment of the imagination of Pamela, is he now the figment of imagination through Alice?
You could go deep and you can go really deep and give a lot of credit to the screenwriter and say, yeah, this is like a version of trauma and traumatic stress and how you deal with it. And are they like, you know, is this like the personal struggles you have materializing themselves on, you know, whatever. You can say all that. But Mrs. Voorhees was definitely real. She definitely believed that she had a son who drowned in the lake and definitely killed a lot of people to revenge that. I'm going to believe that her boy really did drown. I'm going to believe that her boy really did resurface to pull Alice underwater, because I have to believe it because Jason is cool.
And then in a year or 2 years later, he grows up.
It turns out that he was never under the water. That he was under the water, but that the police didn't find him, or he was on the shores and witnessed his mom be beheaded. So he grew up his whole life in the. We'll get there. We'll get to part two.
Intriguing idea,
isn't it? Because that's what Jenny said. Okay, well, we'll just jump in the gun a little.
Who's Jenny? We're talking about Friday the 13th Part 1.
Yeah, Part 1. Alice survives and is definitely the final girl and beheads Mrs. Voorhees, and that is Friday the 13th,
that is
1980.
Friday the 13th, and I can't wait to get into the rest of the franchise because. One movie in particular, this franchise is one of my favorite horror films. So,
is it?
Get there, yes.
I could take a guess right now, but I'm gonna leave it up to the moment we get to it.
So we are doing the whole franchise. Remember that. So when we rate this film, remember, Danny, you're rating against the whole franchise.
Am I?
Yes.
Okay.
So let's see. How many machetes do you give Friday the 13th?
Friday the 13th, 1980, the original. I'm going to give it 5 machetes.
Wow. Okay.
I have to.
Okay. I will give it 4 machetes.
I was going to go with 4, but I think it'll feel good with 5.
I really enjoy it, but there is one that I like even more than the first one. So I'm going to wait, and I'll definitely,
Sounds good to me. I'll just point out the obvious is that you graded 2 movies with 5s in the original Halloween franchise, I think.
Yeah.
So that could stand to reason. So that could stand a reason for me too.
Okay. All right, Danny, anything else about Friday the 13th?
Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. We'd like to invite you to tune in the rest of the franchise. And if you are interested in the previous movies, please tune in and check out our previous podcasts, as we love these timeless classics and we hope you love them too. And if you're swimming in a lake, make sure you're a really good swimmer.
All right, until next time when we cover Friday the 13th Part 2, remember to
lock your doors,
bolt your windows,
and it's gonna storm. Can tear down that valley like a son of a gun.
And join us next time in our Slasher's Paradise. Hey! Thank you everyone for watching Slasher's Paradise tonight. Please go down to the subscribe button right down here and click subscribe, and make sure you turn on your notifications so that you know when we go live next time on YouTube. Danny?
And if you prefer an audio version, look us up on Apple Podcasts, find Slasher's Paradise, listen to us obviously, and leave a 5-star rate and review. If you don't know what to say, go ahead and put in a request of a movie you'd like for us to talk about. We'd love to hear what you think, guys.
Yes, please. And if you would love to see more of our beautiful faces, head to facebook.com/deadcandyfix. Dead Candy is the producer of Slashers Paradise, and we will see you there, and we will see you next time. Here's to you guys.
This is Slashers Paradise. Sorry, I had to work that in.
And I'm going to drink on that.